Well, guys, it's Wednesday morning. It's about 29, 30 degrees out here. Car fire's right up. It's idling good. Temp sensor. Yeah, she's idling good, so. I thought the temp was gonna work that time, guess not. I'm just waiting for my windshield to defrost so I can head to work. And yeah. But yeah, y'all stay tuned. I keep you guys updated. Have a good day. Hey guys, alright, so it's Thursday. Ordering some more stuff for this engine, which is the new donor engine for the 07. So I found a guy on Marketplace. He's got a brand new in the box ZZP XPZ cam, and he's got the 7.0 and 7.050 ZZP push rods to go with it. And he wants 300 shipped for everything. So I'm gonna get that stuff. Hopefully get it ordered today, and he said he could ship it out tomorrow. And then that should pretty much be everything, because I've still got the double roller timing kit over here, right there. I still have the brand new LS7 lifters right here, and then that's pretty much all the valve train, the heads. I've got the head studs, ARP. I've got the reusable rocker bolts for the rockers. So that's pretty much going to be all the whole valve train part of it. So my next step I've got to do is I've got to get this old oil pan off, because I'm using that nice painted up red one. I do have to save this sensor, that oil level sensor, because this one works, and the one that's on in that red pan right now, I broke on the inside. It got caught on the oil pickup tube and broke the piece off. So that's got to come off so I can swap that sensor out. But other than that, I've just got to get that oil pan off and get the cam out. And I do have to order a new cam bolt, and I need to order a new crank bolt, just because I haven't. And like on any of the engines, I haven't used a new cam bolt or a new crank bolt. And I didn't have any issues with it on the engine that was in here. But I mean, I definitely had an issue with the lifter, and it was used, because they were already pre-used LS7 lifters out of another engine, the cam and everything. And I mean, I still think the cam is usable. Nice. Yeah, I still think the cam is usable. Like, I'm not just going to throw it away. But if I can have a brand spanking new cam and brand new ZZP push rods for like $100 less, $150 less, or 120, somewhere in there. But I can save money and get brand new ZZP shit, and it'd be cheaper than buying just the new cam from ZZP. So I figured, fuck it, why not? So now the only other part I'm really lacking is the fuel rail. Because with running the intercooler, there's no way in fucking hell that this fuel rail is going to be able to reach. Like, there's just no way. So I'm going to have to do fuel logs. And they're just going to have to bolt on down here with the injectors, and it's just going to have a tube that goes over, and that's just how I'm going to have to run it. So, but I mean, other than that, I've got everything. Look at that new water pump, brand new balancer. I have a brand new oil filter here to replace that old one. but man, dude, like, it's definitely coming together. So like I said, the only thing I'm lacking right now is the fuel logs. Everything else I have. Like, I've still got to do all the rear suspension stuff. I still got to put in the rack and pinion. Still got to do the trans cooler. Still got to swap the fuel pump and get the E85 pump in there. Still got to get the front mount heat exchanger hooked up and like mounted. And I am still going to have to get the clear hose that goes from the intercooler here over to the two barbed fittings. Well, they go here. The actual fittings that screw in are in that box with the pump and the wiring. But I mean, like, I pretty much got everything I need except for the fuel logs and some clear hose and maybe just a couple other odds and ends here and there, but pretty much everything is good to go. So now it's just waiting on these last few parts, and I got to finish tearing this engine down. And then once I get this engine completely torn down, I would really like to do like an acid bath, or probably not even acid, just like get a big ass container, fill it with degreaser, and put it on like over a fire. Just let it cook it, get all that gunk and shit off, make it look good. I just don't like all the rust and the dirtiness of it. But bam, 3800 series 3. So it's got a lot of work that needs to be done to it, but it'll get there. So, and then I still got to do the transmission service and get the shift kit in, which is back behind the car. So this thing, it's still got a lot of work it needs done to it. And then I've still got the Grand Am and the other storage. So, but, yeah, and then this is all the NA stuff that came off this engine, which was in the 06, so that I could do the top swap. Now I'm kind of debating, since that engine has got the snapped head bolt, so if I can get that head bolt out, since I've already robbed a bunch of parts off the supercharged shit for the 97, because I needed a bunch of little bullshit whenever I swapped everything. So now I'm kind of just debating on putting the 06 back together. Since it's an NA block, I could just put it back together with this NA top end. Because, like, I've had a couple people hit me up wanting to buy this stuff, but no one's been serious and actually came to look at anything. And like I said, I need the room in here. Like, I need to do something with this engine block and this other transmission that came out of the 06, which I'm probably going to end up putting that in my girl's Buick, because it came out of a 04, 05 Buick, and she's got an 04 Buick. So, and that was a reman originally. And then I put it in the 06, and it's worked great in the 06 for like a year. So it's still a good transmission. I figured if once hers goes out, I'll throw that one in there. It won't cost anything. I already have it. It's just right now I need the space, and I'm really limited on space. And then we're still looking for a house. Haven't found a house yet, so I'm still paying storage for both the storages. But yeah, I'm about to get these push rods ordered either today or tomorrow, and he'll get them shipped out tomorrow, and we're gonna go from there. And then probably, maybe, hopefully sometime this weekend, I can get over here and tear the rest of this engine apart and get the cam out and the oil pan off and get it cleaned up. Maybe get the block painted if I can get it cleaned up good enough, and we'll go from there. So you guys stay tuned, have a good day, and I'll keep you guys updated whenever I make it back over here to work on this some more. Hey YouTube, alright, it's Saturday night, so I've been working on the 06 for a little bit. So I went over to my storage today, and I got all the NA stuff pretty much. So I got both of the NA heads. I've already got this one cleaned up. I already got the new valve cover grommets on there and the new valve cover gasket in there. I have the one for the other side right here, which is there. I still got to clean this one up. Still got to clean this head up. You can just see how gunky and nasty they are. So I took both of them to the car wash earlier and washed them with a power washer just to get all the gunk and shit out, all the main big stuff, which it did clean them up, but they're still just nasty and caked with oil. Whoever had this engine originally didn't change the oil very often, so it's pretty gunked on the inside. But this one I've already wire wheeled the whole thing, wire wheeled all the surfaces. Got the back side looking nice. So it's ready to go back together. I really wanted to paint it, but right now I'm just trying to get the car going. So I don't really care about painting everything and taping everything off and all that like I did the supercharged heads. Right now I'm just trying to get it back together. So I've got the other head gasket here. I've got my lower intake manifold gaskets. There's a couple of the things for the lower intake manifold. EGR, that's for the exhaust, the thermostat, the RTV, my Velcro head bolts, brand new ones. So it's all about to start going back together. I've already got this head gasket and got it sprayed down with the copper spray. So I'm just kind of giving that a few minutes to kind of dry up some, and I'm going to come slide it on here and stick that front head on and go ahead and get it bolted on and torqued down. And that'll give me something I can hook my ratchet strap to here and hook it to the front head and ratchet the engine forward so I can get to that rear head bolt spot a little bit better. And I still got to drain all the oil out of this pan because the same thing happened on this one that happened on the 97 when I did the gaskets. So, but yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. I'm about to get this front head gasket and this front head set on here and go ahead and get it bolted down and torqued down. And then that front head will be on there and ready to go. And then once I get that rear head bolt out, that snapped one, then I can get the rear head on. And then I can just put the engine back together as an NA. I have the NA harness and all that. I have the upper and lower intake manifold in the trunk of the 97 still. So I mean, I made a little bit of progress. I've only been working on this for a couple hours, and it was just kind of last minute. Also earlier today, I had the parts Grand Am towed over to my storage, so it is no longer over here at the house. So now it is out of my storage. And so while I was out there dropping the car off, I decided just to grab all the NA stuff, because I still don't know if the heads I had on here, the supercharged heads, I don't know if there's just an issue with them, or if the valves aren't sealing, or if it was something else. I don't know, but I'm just gonna lean on it was the heads that was fucking it up and making it misfire. And then I think just having that broken head bolt back there was just kind of adding to it and letting coolant in and kind of making it run worse. So, well, that's why I just decided to say fuck it. I'm just gonna put it back in NA. It's an NA block, and I know it's a good block. So that's where I'm at right now. And yeah, so now I've just gotta let this gasket dry up a little bit. I can get that on here, get the head on here, get it torqued down, and then that's probably all I'm gonna do tonight. But tomorrow I'm gonna come back out here and I'm gonna ratchet strap the engine forward and start drilling on that head bolt in the rear again and try to get that shit out, because this thing's just been sitting for like a month and a half, and I'm ready to drive this thing again. Even if it's not supercharged, I'm still just ready to have another car I can drive. And because even as as NA, I don't have to run 91 in here. And on the 97, I have to run 91. On the 07, I gotta run 91. So, and then once I get the Grand Am, I'm probably gonna be running 91 in that too. But also I found a brand new XPZ cam in the box with some ZZP 7.00 and 7.050 push rods, all brand new, for $300 shipped. So I've made a $100 deposit on that. I gotta pay the other $200 next week, and then I'll have a brand new XPZ cam and some brand new ZZP push rods come in for the 07. So then I'll have the brand new cam, brand new LS7 lifters, brand new push rods. So then like pretty much everything will be new that got damaged in the original, in this engine when it was in the 07 still, which it was just a broken lifter and it fucked up the cam. So I mean, I still have the other cam. I was gonna use it, but now I've got a brand new one. It's about to be on the way, and since I went all out and I've been buying everything else, I really didn't want to chance it and throw the engine back together with the bad cam and it caused more issues later on down the line. I'd rather just have a brand new one in there, know it's good, and shouldn't have any issues. And then that'll still leave me the other cam, so if I do end up wanting to throw it into the 97 or throw it into the Grand Am engine before it gets put in or something, I could always do that. I mean, like I said, the cam was still running the engine, no check engine light, even with the broken lifter. So I don't think it's, you know, it's going to make it not run correctly. It'll still run, but I'd have to get another double roller timing chain, and I'd have to get some stuff for whichever car it's going into, the upgraded valve springs and all that. But I guess I'll get to that point whenever I get there. But yeah, so right now I'm gonna go ahead and, pretty sure this gasket's dried enough now with that copper spray, so I'm gonna go and grab that gasket and get it set on here, and then get the head set on here and start getting the head bolts in, RTVing them as I go, and then I'll run them all down, and then I'll come back and torque them all down with the torque wrench, and should be good to go. So you guys stay tuned, I'll keep you guys updated. Alright y'all, so just want to show off the head a little bit. Got this one pretty cleaned up. I mean, it's still got some oily shit in there, but like these were like all brown and nasty and just caked with old oil. So got those cleaned up. Got all this surface area wire wheeled. Got all the rear for the lower intake manifold all nice and wire wheeled. Got all that old gunk and shit off. They're all nice and smooth. And then also the bottom and in the valves in the combustion chambers. I wire wheeled all this down. So, but yeah, it's looking good. I've got my gasket on there. So now I've just got to set the head in place and then get the head bolts in there and be good to go. So y'all stay tuned, I keep you updated. Alright y'all, so I've got the head set in place. I've got the head bolts in and RTV'd. I just used the impact to run them down just to get them seated, and now I'm torquing them. So I'm doing 30, 60, 90, because that's how I always do them. I never had any issues like that. So yeah, you start on one of these two middle bolts, and then you crisscross. So I'm started here. So next I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'm going to do all of them 30 foot-pounds. And then I'll bump it up to 60, do the same pattern again. Bump it up to 85 or 90, do the whole pattern again. And these are all brand spanking new head bolts, so I shouldn't have any issues with these. So I'm going to go ahead and get these torqued down before this RTV starts to set. And come back to you guys. Y'all stay tuned. Alright y'all, head is on. It's torqued down to 85 foot-pounds. And I was trying to go 90, but I just didn't want to snap these things, so I went to 85. All fucking 8 of them torqued down, no problem. So they're all 8 of them sitting at 85 foot-pounds of torque. So the front head is on, so shouldn't have any issues with the front head. So now I just got to get the push rods in, get the rockers bolted back down, and then I can get the valve cover on there. So I'm not doing any of that tonight. I'll probably just set the valve cover on there and tighten a couple of the bolts down to hold it in place. And this is all I'm doing tonight. So I'm about to just get this covered back up with the trash bag here, so that way I don't have any issues. I don't want any issues at all with this thing. I just want this thing to go back together and just work. So yeah, it's gonna be good. So y'all stay tuned, and I'll keep you guys updated tomorrow. Alright, you guys, so I've been working on this thing a little bit today, mainly just getting this other rear head and valve cover cleaned up. Got this one all nice and wire wheeled, and got it all nice and cleaned up all around. Got the valve cover cleaned up. It's got a little bit of gunk still right here, but not very much. And this is the rear head, so you won't ever see that. But got this one cleaned up, got all the new grommets on and the new gasket on. I took the gray select coils that came on this and the extra ICM that I had in this bracket, because this was the bracket off of her Buick, and whenever it was misfiring and I redid the whole top end, it ended up being the ICM or the coils, one of the two. I just swapped this whole piece around with the original one off of the NA engine out of this car, and just swapped the whole thing, coils and all, and ran great. So yeah, I definitely had to swap that out, but I know these coils were good. I know this ICM is good, because this is what came on the 97. Whenever I swapped to the MSDs, I took these off, and this was running it fine, so these should be good to go and run on here. I went ahead and swapped around that red bracket with just a plain one. Still has the metal coolant elbows. This is the red one with the other alternator, the newer style, with the elbows. That's what's going to be going on this. And it's got the same plug as what's on there, so that should work perfect. Go right on. Pulleys look to be about the same size, so shouldn't have any issues there. I should be able to swap that around and, you know, swap it to this newer style. That way I have a bunch of alternators that work it, and I know this is a good alternator. So yeah, that's one thing that's going on this. Then I have a couple other little bar that goes across, and I actually have another one of this bar that bolts here on the supercharger and goes up to right here on this nut. And then I have the one for the NA for this one that goes the same thing, but instead of going to the supercharger, it just goes to a little bracket. Just let me see. It's right here. It goes to that. See, this is the other bar I have that goes to the supercharger over to the alternator. So that's going to end up going on the 97 after I convert it to the new alternator bracket. But that's got to go on there before the lower intake manifold goes on, or before the upper intake manifold goes on, excuse me. Yeah, so my buddy David helped me and got all the lower intake manifold bolts all nice and cleaned up and wiped down and got all the gunk off. So those are ready to get RTV'd and put on. Yeah, I've still got to spray this gasket with the copper spray before I can put this rear head on. And I still need to get the rest of that bolt out of there. It's still got that bolt snapped off in there. I haven't been able to get it. We tried drilling it out some earlier, and it's just not, none of the bits are grabbing anything, so I was kind of debating on just throwing it back together since I know these heads are good. Maybe it was just the heads causing it to run like shit, but I don't know. I figured it's worth it. I have another set of head gaskets and shit if it still fucked up, but I know the proper thing to do would be to pull the engine out, drill that out, and then re-tap it if I need to. But I just don't have the time to do all that right now, and I don't really have the money to get this towed to my storage, which is where my cherry picker and all the rest of my shit is, that I would need to pull this out. And I'm not even supposed to be working on cars here, so like I don't want to be over here pulling the engine out here. And yeah, so I'm pretty much just trying to throw this back together to get it to run so I can drive it out of here. And yeah, so I guess for now I'm just going to hope for the best and throw this thing together. And I mean, I know it's a good engine block, so I'll try not to drive it as much. I'm still going to have to drain the oil pan and do the oil change and all that, but for now I'm going to go ahead and get this other gasket coated with the copper spray so I can get it thrown on here and get that rear head slapped on there and start getting this thing put back together. So y'all stay tuned and I will keep you guys updated. Alright y'all, so I've got the rear gasket on, the rear head on. It's not torqued down yet. Still gotta torque the 7 because that one rear still is snapped off in there, but I've got all the other 3 on the bottom and all 4 on the top. They're just snugged down with the impact like I did the front head. So now I've just got to grab the torque wrench and the adapter to go from 1/2 inch to 3/8. So I can get this done, and I can get that rear head torqued down, put my RTV in the corners. I've pretty much got the lower intake manifold ready to go. So I do still have some coolant up here, which kind of sucks, but I guess I have to try to use a vacuum and suck that out before the lower intake manifold goes on. But it's coming together, so I'm going to grab the torque wrench and get this rear head torqued down 30, 60, 85 like I did the front head, and go from there. So y'all stay tuned, I'll keep you updated. Alright you guys, so I've got the lower intake manifold all cleaned up. I replaced this gasket in here. I got all the lower intake manifold gaskets on. I put RTV in all 4 corners and going all the way across. And now I've just got the lower intake manifold set on and got all the bolts in and torqued down to 25 foot-pounds. So now I've got the lower intake manifold on. There's still a little bit of gunk in there, and then not that bad on this side. But, I mean, it's just from the old oil. It ain't gonna hurt it. I mean, not any worse than what it already was, right? So, but at least now I can get this bracket bolted on. And it's got both the metal coolant elbows, so I gotta put some RTV on both the coolant elbows and then get those set in place how they're supposed to go, get the bracket bolted down. I still gotta get the rockers and the push rods in on both the front and the rear head. But now both the heads are torqued down except for that one where the snapped off bolt is. And all the other 8 on the front and 7 on the rear bolts are all torqued down to 85 foot-pounds. So, I mean, it's coming together now. I just gotta throw this upper intake manifold on with the gasket and get all those bolts in, get the fuel rail on. Which, before I start doing all that stuff, though, I still want to I want to get that rear exhaust manifold on and the front exhaust manifold on and get all that stuff done so I have a little bit more room getting stuff in back there, because I've got this one dog bone mount holding it right now, and it's kind of a tight fit back here. And then I still gotta put the spark plugs in. But overall, I mean, it looks pretty good. It's a lot more presentable than what they were. I mean, there was so much gunk, like these caps and retainers and shit were like black from old nasty oil. And I mean, this whole front and this whole back side all looked like that right there. Like it was just completely gunked everywhere. So I at least tried to wire wheel it and clean it up some. But it's all RTV'd. It's on there. So hopefully no issues with that. And hopefully it just runs good and doesn't have any issues with not having a head bolt down there, because like I said, it's just snapped off. It's gone. So, but it at least has a piece in there to keep coolant from coming out of the head bolt slot, because it is a coolant jacket. So, and it's also got a good coolant temp sensor. So now I just got to start getting everything bolted back on. I've got the EGR that needs to bolt onto the side of the head right there and connect over to here before I put the crossover pipe on, which I got to do the front and rear exhaust manifolds first. I mean, so it's still got quite a bit left to go, but it's huge progress for tonight. So at least now it's starting to look like an engine again. And I guess I should have started doing it a little bit earlier in the day. I was just still debating on, like I was really determined on trying to get that bolt out, and we just tried for like a couple hours and just we didn't make any progress. And so we gave up and David went home, and then out of nowhere I was just like, fuck it, I'm just gonna put it back together anyways. And so it's kind of a last minute ordeal, and the sun was, you know, like an hour and a half from going down. Now it's fucking dark as shit out here. I'm just sitting here with my flashlight on the hood, shining down so I can see, and using my flashlight on my phone. But making a lot of progress, so y'all stay tuned. I'll keep you guys updated. Alright guys, it's starting to look like an engine again. And I'm kind of debating on getting some red and painting this red, but I don't know. But man, it's coming together. It's starting to look like an engine again. So, hey there. Happy with the progress. So, I don't know, y'all comment down below and let me know if you think I should paint this red, or if I should leave it silver, like bare aluminum, or if I should do like actual silver or something. Because I do have an actual silver bracket over here somewhere. Yeah, right here. And I painted silver. I could totally use that and throw that on there, and then just paint that bright silver also, and just make it look nice and new silver with the red. Which I don't know how well that's going to go, but I was just kind of still thinking of black and red, and black valve covers, red intake, red. Maybe paint that bracket black. Do it a little different this time. But it's coming together, so y'all stay tuned. Alright you guys, so I've got the push rods and the rockers in, got those torqued down, got the valve covers on, front and rear. Got this bracket and that bracket bolted on before I put the upper intake manifold on. I also put on the alternator bracket before I put on the upper intake manifold. Then I got the upper intake on and got it torqued down. Got the alternator on and torqued down. So pretty much everything's all hooked up. Got the thermostat housing bolted on. I still got to get the exhaust manifolds on and the crossover pipe, but I've made a lot of progress today, so I'm really happy with it. I still got to get the coils on, and once I get the front exhaust manifold on, I can put the rest of this dog bone mount bracket on, but it bolts to one of the studs on the exhaust. And I still got to take off that supercharger idler pulley And then I'm also have to take off that balancer, and I have an NA balancer that I'm going to put back on there, but I have to change that crank sensor because you can see the rubber grommet on it, the plastic on the crank sensor is broke. And I mean, it's probably still a good sensor potentially, but the car was running like shit, and that potentially could have been the issue the whole time. And so I have another one. I'm going to swap it out whenever I swap the pulley and go from there. Also, there was an issue in my fuel rail. The little pieces inside the hose that click it on were all bent out of whack, so I had spare hose. Yeah, there's the old one. It was all bent up and almost didn't get it to come off, so I had an old hose from the salvage yard I cut off and was trying to measure out shit for the Grand Am 3800 supercharged swap. And but yeah, I ended up robbing that inside piece and we got it in there. David helped me, he did it, so he got it swapped for me and it clicks right on into place now. But yeah, I still gotta pull out all this harness. This is all the supercharged harness and supercharged computer. So I've got to unplug that crank sensor, the cam sensor, the O2 sensors, the transmission, speed sensor, and really I think that's about it. Oh, the starter and the transmission. It's got some grounds going on the front of the transmission and the 2 wires on the starter and the AC compressor. But I mean, this harness is almost all the way out, so not that big a deal. But yeah, so y'all stay tuned. I'll keep you guys updated. Alright, you guys, so I've got the front exhaust manifold on. It's all nice and bolted down. I got the dipstick in, got the front, the other front engine mount on, so now I can get the dog bone on. It's just set on there right now. But I mean, it's coming together. It's really starting to look like an engine again. So I still got to get the rear manifold on and the crossover pipe. It's still down here. And I still got to get the plug wires back on. And there's the rear heat shield and this bracket and the O2 sensor. And then I've got the full NA harness with the computer sitting up there on top of that box on the roof of the car. So I'm probably going to have to disconnect a couple of these things to run the harness. But it's coming together. It's getting there. So shouldn't be too much longer. I did lose one of the bolts for the coils, so I'm going to have to go to my storage and grab another one of the smaller bolts, because I don't know, it just disappeared in the back seat with all the shit. So unless it turns up, I'm gonna have to grab another one, but it's on there for now. It should still run like that. I'm probably gonna have to clean up this contact because it looks kind of rusty and dirty, and all the other ones are nice and shiny. So I'll clean up that one, get it shiny before I throw the wires on there. But I've got all the spark plugs in, they're all snug. So now it's just going to be the rear exhaust manifold, crossover pipe, plug wires, run the harness. I'll probably run the harness then plug wires. Still got to get the belt on, but it's coming together, it's getting close. So y'all stay tuned, I'll keep you guys updated. Alright you guys, so I've got most of this put back together. I still have to run the harness. I did get the supercharged harness and computer out. It's over there. So there's no harness in here at all right now. But I've got the front exhaust all together. I got the rear exhaust on. But I didn't put the heat shield on because I couldn't find the little bolts. So I just said, fuck it. It's got the O2 sensor. Got the crossover pipe on and all tightened down. Got a brand new donut gasket in there. Got a down pipe on. It's just the one off the 97 where it's cut off because there's no cat. But it's pretty much back together, just minus the harness. And I've still got to put the bolts in this dog bone and to right there on the engine. And I've got to get the little plastic thing that holds these spark plug wires up off the exhaust manifold so I don't melt my plug wires. But other than that, everything's pretty much there. I still have to drain the oil pan. I might have already because I pulled the dipstick after I got it dissolved and it's not showing anything. So I might have already drained the oil pan, but I'm going to pull the plug just to double check and make sure that it's drained and get that filter off there, get some new oil, new filter, and get this thing topped off. And yeah, hopefully in the next video, or maybe in the next couple days, I'll get to hear this thing start and run again. I still got to get a belt put on it. I still got to get the rear plug wires hooked up. They're just kind of dangling back there. I've got to get coolant. I've still got to get the overflow tank hooked back up to the radiator. I still got to run the whole harness. So I made a lot of progress. So y'all stay tuned and I'll keep you guys updated. Hey YouTube. Alright, it's Tuesday. It's the next day. So I've got the harness out with the computer. And like I said last night, pretty much everything is together, just minus the harness and the computer. So, and then I've got to still put this bracket on the rear head back there, which isn't that big of a deal at the moment, but it's alright. So yeah, that's pretty much all I got to do is just get this harness back in here. So, oh, and I still got to put the belt on. I was kind of waiting to put it on because I'm going to have to pull the crank pulley and swap out that crank sensor. So I'm going to have to take the belt off, but I do want to make sure that the belt is the right size, and this is going to run it. And then I have another crank pulley in the front seat. Another crank sensor, so there's the other sensor. And then here's the NA crank pulley. So that's what's going to end up going on there. For those right there. And then that's for the 97. So yeah, I'm gonna start working on getting this harness all put it back in here and hook back up to the starter and get everything plugged in, and I'll keep you guys updated. Alright you guys, so I've got pretty much most of the harness and everything back in. So I've still got to plug in the cam sensor and the crank sensor, and I still have to change out the crank sensor and the harmonic balancer pulley. But so I've still got to connect the wires to the starter down here. I don't know if you see it. And then the plug right there goes to the AC compressor. And then there's the plug on the front of the oil pan and the knock sensor. The starter wires, there's a ground that goes to the bell housing bolt. Still got to hook up the transmission sensor and the rear knock sensor. And there's a couple other plugs back there, that bottom O2 sensor, which doesn't even have an O2 to go to it right now. But I mean, there's still a few more things I have to plug in, and then I can hook up all the cables, and I still got to add oil, and yeah, so, but it's getting there, so y'all stay tuned. I'll keep you guys updated. Alright you guys, so I've got pretty much everything except for I've got that sensor right there. That's for the oil pan, for the oil level sensor, and I've got the plug right there for the knock sensor. I have all the rear stuff is all connected and hooked up. Right down here, the speed sensor, the rear knock sensor, the oil pressure sensor on the oil pump housing, the oil filter housing. So all that back there is plugged in. I have the upstream O2 sensor plugged in, but there is no downstream. No second one, so the plug just goes down and hangs. But all that's ran, so everything except for the starter and the oil level sensor and the front knock sensor is all hooked up. Computer's bolted, screwed down into place. The transmission's hooked up, body's hooked up. EGR, got the purge solenoid off this supercharger. All the injectors are plugged in, alternators hooked up and tight. Valve covers are on. I've added 1 quart of oil so far. It's like barely even reading anything at all on the end of the dipstick. A little bit, not much. So I'm definitely going to have to get some more oil. I guess I've already drained it. And I still got to get a new filter. But no big deal. Still have to change the crank sensor and the crank pulley to the NA ones. But for now, this works. And so probably going to get some more oil. Add some oil tomorrow. And I just got to hook up my harness into the fuse box. And after I get the starter and the rest of the sensors hooked up in the front, and then it'll be probably just pull the fuel pump relay and just crank it over and pump up oil, prime the engine with oil, get the rockers and the lifters and everything all nice and oily, and then I'll throw the relay back in and fire it. But that's probably going to be it for this video, so stay tuned and get the first start in the next video. So y'all have a good night. Thanks for watching.